get all the questions in. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Minister, for being here with us today and answering our questions. My question has to do with the American approach to enforcement at the border. In other words, state jurisdiction versus federal jurisdiction. Minister, as we all know, some U.S. states are relaxing their marijuana laws or have legalized marijuana, such as the states of Alaska and Washington, which have land borders with Canada. That said, some people may think that the flow of marijuana from Canada to those states, or vice versa, will be done more freely. However, we know, however, the fact is that the U.S. federal government has not relaxed its laws, and it is they who control the international border, as well as enact federal criminal law. Minister, do you acknowledge that the difference between American states and Canada is that American states do not have to deal with the international border?
The international border is clearly federal jurisdiction, whether that's in Canada or the U.S.
But that seems to be the crux of the matter, you know.
Yeah. Well, we've discussed this with the Americans, and they quite readily acknowledge that their situation within the boundaries of the United States is getting more and more complex, because they have more and more states that are either legalizing or decriminalizing, or in a very significant way changing their state regime. And two that are in the process at the moment are New York and California, and that, of course, engages a huge population share in the United States. So the situation in the U.S. Is becoming confused.
Yes.
And within each one of the states, the rules are a little bit different. They're not identical in those various jurisdictions that are legalizing or decriminalizing. We need to keep reminding ourselves that while the Americans sort this out domestically, and it will take a while, as all of this legal innovation and confusion on the American side settles down, and it will eventually. But in the meantime, the federal law is the federal law.
Exactly.
And it's the law that governs the terms and conditions for crossing the border.
Minister, as you've indicated, there are ongoing discussions between the Canadian government and the American government on the issue of the legalization of marijuana. And I understand that no agreement has been signed, with the United States government. Why has the government not attempted to secure such an agreement up to now? Or have you?
Well, the conversation is very much alive. All of these issues are under discussion.
Have you secured an agreement with the United States?
There's no agreement or protocol in place at the
Nothing
at the
has
moment.
been signed so far?
No. Not specifically on this point, but we will. And I don't know that it's realistic to expect another country to sign a specific protocol on a border issue like this one. I mean, if somebody came to us and asked, would we sign a border protocol that somehow constrained Canadian discretion and authority at the border, that's something that governments tend not to do. But what we have done is to make the issue very much alive, to keep reminding the Americans so that they know clearly what we are doing, why we are doing it. Key point at the border, the rules don't change. So your interview processes at the border should not change. If you're concerned about backlogs, don't change your questionnaire. Continue to conduct the same border inquiries you do today, because the law is the same today and after the Canadian law changes in the summer.
But if C-45 becomes law, things will change. And that said, don't you think it is crucial, it is important for the federal government to sign an agreement with the United States before C-45 becomes law?
I think it is very crucial for us to, at all times and by all means, insist on the proper and fair treatment of Canadians at the border. And
the agreement would do that.
It's one technique for perhaps doing it, but there may be other more practical ways
Such as?
just to constantly reinforce with the Americans that if they are concerned about backlogs, which is what they say they are, then don't create one by a change in your questionnaire, which is unnecessary because the law hasn't changed at the border. And in the kind of dynamic relationship that we have with the U.S., I think that very active pursuit of the issue, from minister to secretary, from CBSA to the border agency on the United States side, from public safety to DHS, we just constantly need to reinforce our interest, and we're doing that quite literally on a daily basis.
The idea is to protect Canadians from being prohibited, from being banned from entering the United States simply because they have used marijuana. That's the bottom line.
Yep. And just as I guess you could say the Americans have a vested interest the other way around on trying to persuade us about how to treat DUIs, driving under the influence. And our view is, in Canada, that's a criminal offense. And we take a very dim view of those who have a record for this that could potentially put Canadians at risk. So it kind of works both ways. And that's why we need to keep the dialogue going.
Thank you.